Hello.
Hey,
How you doing?
so good to see you.
Great to see you as well.
I feel like it's been 3 or 4 years.
It's been a while. It's been a while. How you doing?
Great. So I'm really excited that you were up for this,
Yes,
and
it'll be great.
I definitely want to go through like a time warp. And if you can imagine yourself at 6 years old, walking into Sharon Art Studio, I'm curious to know if you chose the class or how did you end up in the comics class?
Honestly, it was probably my mom signed me up for it. I'm gonna doesn't sound very cool, but that's probably what happened. But
Okay.
I'd say, but that's also, I'm trying to think back to when I was six. That was probably kindergarten, and so I think that's kind of around the time I realized that art was something that was kind of up my alley. So it probably correlated with that as well, and then I ended up at a comic class.
Do you think that she saw some of your art? Like, were you bringing home comics? Were you bringing
Yeah,
home?
I think maybe actually. I don't think I was drawing comics at that point, but there must have been something where I was drawing a lot. So I think that's kind of what provoked that plan.
Okay. And I'm not sure if I had the workbook out at that time. Do you remember if I gave you anything that resembled the workbook?
I don't think then. I don't think
Okay.
then. Yeah.
From what I remember, is you showed up from when you were 6 to around 12.
Yeah, it was a while. Yeah, because I remember doing it was the comic class on, was it Saturday or Sunday?
It was definitely, I think, Sundays
Okay,
for,
yeah. It was Sunday for a while, and then it kind of transitioned to the figure drawing classes, which was fun as
yes.
well, which I did later.
Yeah, so you just kind of showed up. I remember like at one point you had braces. So
Yep, that's true.
so
I
I
did have
definitely saw
braces.
you around middle school.
Yeah.
And I remember you were doing that comic for the school newspaper.
Yep, I remember that. Yeah,
Do
that
you
was
want to
fun.
talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I remember. Well, I guess it was probably third grade where I really got into, comics in general. But that's kind of where my passion for art kind of started was comics. Like I'd read like Calvin and Hobbes and I'm trying to remember what else I read around then. It was around then that, I was like, okay, this is kind of a nice gateway into art. It's kind of fun to read comics, but there's also the visual element. And so I think from then I got into it. And then fourth grade and fifth grade is when I really got into stuff. Like I started reading a lot of Japanese comics and like, I was a big Osamu Tezuka fan who did Astro Boy. I really like Jason Shiga as well.
Oh
That was
yeah.
my I was obsessed with Jason Shiga in fifth grade. And then from there on, I was like, okay, this is actually something I want to try doing. So I remember I think I always liked the idea of like, okay, I need to like because I'd never really finished a piece of art before, like in the sense like a big project. So I was like, okay, I have to like see if I can finish something, that's larger scale. So I started doing these comic strips and I was like, oh, this is actually pretty fun. And so I kind of got in the, routine of, sketching those out and inking those. And then from there, I was pretty close with my science teacher and she was running the school newspaper. And she was like, this would be great if you did like a short comic. And then, I remember meeting you in the mission library, weekly and then getting some tips on, how to compose stuff better so nothing's super flat, and which actually was very helpful. And then yeah, I
Yeah.
remember the school newspaper came out and I was like, oh, that's actually something I finished. And it was kind of it's a monumental moment. I was like, oh look, I can actually finish something, which was pretty cool.
I feel like you're the example student who basically took comics really young and then sort of like, we intersected different parts of your life.
Yeah,
So you showed up again in middle school and then I saw you again in high school. And by then you wanted to be an artist. So you
yeah,
were you were taking figure drawing, you were taking portfolio. So I think it's interesting how the comics kind of led in you into other work. But along the way, like I remember you got an internship at that in the Outer Sunset. And was that a radio station, a TV station?
that was it was kind of like it was a weekly class. It was kind of, you get a stipend at the end of it, so it was kind of internship, kind of not, but it was called Sunset Media Wave, and that was I did
Oh.
with some friends. And so it was pretty much they had like an online website, and you were there and you could kind of do whatever you want, but you had to write like a blog post every week. And so that was definitely high school. I did that a few times, a couple of years, which is pretty fun.
So it sounds like comics led you into media arts. Because I saw I saw your sticker designs as well. And I definitely want to put that in this interview. I
Yeah,
want to like post some of your art along the way. Because I see you as like being good at a lot of things. And I probably don't even know the half of what you're good at. I'm sure like you're doing a lot more than I even realized. But I was seeing like your work evolve over the years
Yeah.
into like more media. Like you didn't say no, you just like kept expanding.
Yeah. Well, I think I guess, also, at least when I was younger, there were certain things that I just didn't even know were humanly possible. I was like, oh, you can, I guess, the second I got on a computer, I was like, whoa. I was like, okay, there's some intense stuff I can do on here. And so I think that was probably, I did a few animation courses at the Walt Disney Museum in the Presidio.
Oh
And
wow.
so I did those probably around, I'd probably say since from fifth grade to maybe like the second year in high school. So I did it for a good chunk. And so that was every Wednesday. And then after that, I actually got an internship there, or like, working at the summer camp or whatever. And so that's kind
Wow.
of where I guess the media arts element came in. And so,
Yeah.
but then I also think a lot of the stuff is very much like, I think any skills you learn in each medium, you can kind of easily apply it to everything else. I guess you can't, you, I'm not, don't really feel trapped in each spot. So I think from there on, I was like, okay, like I kind of drift away from the fact because comics and animation is very story driven. And I
Yes.
realized that like I liked some elements of it, but as a whole, I didn't feel like you know, it was as direct of a medium that I wanted. I didn't feel like I could stick with a story long enough. I feel like I needed kind of like quicker things, like I would design a poster, do like a music video or something. And
Mhm.
so I feel like that kind of got me into, more graphic design stuff where I'm at right now.
Wow. Okay. So when you were, are you still at CalArt?
I am still at Cal Arts, yeah.
Okay. What year?
Going in my third. So just finished my
Wow.
second one.
Okay. So what has been your journey like when you arrived there and to now? And then where do you see yourself after this?
Um, it's been a lot, I'd say. I mean, I signed up for because I remember going on the tour of the school, and there was, some student giving the kind of rundown of everything, and he was like, "Oh, what program are you going into?" And I said, "Graphic design." And he was like, "Oh, you're not gonna see sunlight ever again." And I was like, "Okay, that sounds about right." And
Yeah.
so I was expecting it to be hard, but it was a lot of work. But that's what I wanted. I wanted something where I could spend like 4 years actually dedicating myself to something I'm really passionate about. And so it's been kind of, and also, it's the amount of work they give you the first year is like, I'd never really pulled an all-nighter
Oh
before.
yeah.
And I probably
Yeah.
pulled like 30. I remember I pulled three in one week. Like it was like I was
Mm,
working 24/7. And so, if it wasn't something I really loved, it would be a problem. Like if I was doing math, this would be hell. But because I love
yes.
it so much, it's kind of like,
Yes.
it's a sacrifice to make. And so,
Yeah. So I think a lot of what was uncovered when I was interviewed recently was that my class is basically disciplined creativity.
yeah,
So I'm wondering like how that translates into what you're doing now. And it sounds like you did cultivate the discipline
yeah.
and you applied it in all these different ways along the way.
Yeah, I mean, I really like I don't know. I mean, a lot of the stuff I'm doing is, it's all kind of related to art, but I think I like to have kind of like a prompt. I like to have some constraints. I feel like I kind
Yes.
of make better things if I'm, instead of just like running free, I feel like if I have some guidelines, I can actually make something that's more interesting than just kind of like setting loose. And
Yes.
so I feel like that's kind of the area that I'm most successful in, I guess. I feel like without that, then I'm kind of just all over the place. So I definitely, and also, with graphic design, I mean, it used to be called commercial art. So it's all
Yes.
making things for something. So
Yes.
I like the element of like, my dream would be something like, there's like a musician I like, and it's like, okay, you have to do the album cover, you have to do the branding, you have to do the music video. So it's kind of like the stage design. So it's kind of taking all the elements I've learned from, every other discipline I've kind of used and compile it all together. I just kind of I like being able to, do a bunch of things pretty well, it's pretty
Yes.
successfully, and then being able to, compile that all together.
I actually think I might have a connection. I have a student who is at Soda right now, and
Oh yeah.
her dad did some album covers, but like for Metallica
Oh really?
and
Wow.
like Guns N' Roses, so like really
Oh, that's
retro
amazing.
stuff, and maybe some posters for the Fillmore.
Oh really? Wow,
Yeah,
yeah, it's right up my alley. That is
I will
completely up
connect
my
you.
alley.
He's a
Yeah, that would be great.
really cool guy. So how do you see like comics leading into graphic design? Like what are the similarities and like what are the ways in which like you felt prepared for that?
Well, I feel like at least in general, I feel like making comics kind of helped, influence my style of how I draw. I feel like that's kind of the main reason I kind of got a similar, art style. Whether at the moment I'm drawing as much as I was before, I still have a similar style. And I feel like just by the fact of like, actually like instead of just doodling, actually kind of turning those doodled characters into like fleshed out, creations in the sense of like, you have to draw this character like 300 times in a row and you have to like make it
Yeah.
somewhat similar. So I feel like, and also being able to like simplify things as well and kind of like, add kind of caricatured elements of like, okay, I'm gonna exaggerate this guy's eyes or whatever. I feel like that's really helped in developing what my like drawing style is now.
I've
And
seen,
also
yeah.
and
Go ahead.
also I feel like, which was also very helpful because I remember working on that newspaper comic you were helping me out with. And I remember there was a thing where I did like draw someone in a tent or something like that. And everything was very flat. It was all kind of like, I mean, because I didn't really know better or anything like that. And the second you kind of push the element of like, to make it dynamic, you need some perspective going on. I feel like just little things like that have kind of helped me, whether I'm the most skilled artist or not. You can kind of push your style in a way that seems way more professional than just kind of like stick
Yes,
figures on like a
yes.
flat piece of paper.
I feel like when I saw your stickers, there was a lot of humor in it. So like you personified the coronavirus, put a face on it, and then you had this character with like the belly sticking out and like the eyes are popping out. And it just like it was very visceral. Like I could almost see that they were like almost sculptures.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
eventually you did start painting like these sculptures that almost look like kind of like Barry McGee type
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
style.
Yeah, I forgot I did that. But yeah, that's one of those things where, I guess around the same time, because it's kind of, now that I'm looking back at it, there's kind of three main things that kind of, you know, guided me to where I'm at right now is I'd say like comics or like graphic novels, animation, and then like designer sculptural toys, like kind of like whatever Kid
Mm,
Robot was doing in like
yes.
it's probably like around 2010, I guess. I was like obsessed with all that stuff. And I feel like
Yes.
there was an element of like, I was like, I don't know, 9 years old. And, I kind of had the understanding of like, like, I'm not playing with these. I'm gazing upon whatever, whatever art I'm looking at right now. And so
You were really that young? You were
I
nine
was, yeah, probably like
when you
nine,
did
8 or
that
something.
sculpture?
Yeah. Or no, not when
Wow.
I did that sculpture, but when I was collecting stuff that was similar to that.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And so I feel like because all that stuff, at least, the styles and all the artists that did all those Kid Robot stuff, it's all very crude and it's very like, there's
Yes.
lots of juxtaposition going on and some,
Yes.
definitely some not very appropriate imagery. And so I feel like that kind of bled into everything I do now, where, I have to like, I can't like if I'm drawing something cute, I have to add something that's like this is a little messed up.
Like a
Little,
beer, like a
yeah,
beer.
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Give him a beer, give him a pot belly, something like that.
I felt like that was a very signature style. So I'm interested to see if that carried through into college.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I definitely
I wonder if there's a way to share screen if you have anything on the computer.
yeah, I let me see. I don't have anything prepared, so I might need to do a little
Okay.
digging. My
All right.
files are kind of
We can always
they're
drop
not
that. We
yeah,
can drop
but
that in later.
that'll probably be a good idea. Yeah.
But I remember also like I think it was during the pandemic you reached out and you wanted to teach, and
Yeah.
I'm curious what inspired that, and if you're still thinking about teaching.
I mean, I think in the at least what inspired me then, I felt like it was just kind of like I was like, oh, this could be a fun new experience because I don't know, I'm kind of always looking to do something new. So I'm like, I might as well
Yes.
see if I can try this out. But I really honestly, as like a future career path, I wouldn't say that's a main goal, but I feel like it's kind of, I mean, I like the element of at least teaching other people that are passionate about it is where you kind
Mm.
of you take away, all the pressure you have on yourself of like I have to make this thing look perfect and you just kind of put all your energy into like helping cultivate, people's art to make it better, I guess. I feel like that's I don't know, it's kind of fulfilling. It's kind of a fun thing to
It
see,
was fulfilling.
um
It was fun as your teacher to see you inspiring, young cartoonists because I feel like you had stuff to show them that was your own path and your own journey
yeah.
as a boy, like, growing into a man, like this is my process. This is
Yeah.
like how this particular class actually influenced me over time. So like it was really fun to watch the journey of that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So you've got 1 year left. Do
Yep.
you see yourself, so do you see yourself staying in California, or do you think that your career location will be more interesting in a different place?
I definitely think that California, I'll probably stick there. I mean, New York's always cool, but I feel like at least
Yeah.
everything that's happening in like the interesting art world is, a lot of it's really happening in LA. And so
Okay.
at least I feel like I'm in a general area where that's happening. And plus, there's a lot of alumni from, the program that I'm in that also have, they have their studios in LA, and there's kind of like a pipeline where you can kind of get a
Nice.
job there. So there's a few things where I think LA is kind of the place to be.
Do you think we're going to be looking out for Clint Kessler Studios? Like, do you see yourself as owning your own company?
I mean, if I can dream for a second, I will I will say that yeah, to have like a design firm would be kind of amazing. Or I really
Yeah.
just, I mean, like a end dream goal would be to be able to like work with people that I really like other artists I like, musicians I like, and actually get like, because the stuff that I like is like, when there's a new album that comes out and there's a whole album rollout. And as I said before, you see like the music video, you see the album cover, you see all the packaging and everything, and seeing who did that. So it'd be kind
Mhm.
of amazing to be, someone that's kind of behind the scenes in that regard. That would be
Yeah.
that would
I
be
just
kind of the perfect goal.
I think that you're good with people. So I really see you as like being a good boss. Like you work hard, but you're also like super nice. And I feel like you tune in to like people's vibe and like, I feel like you would just be a good boss.
That would
So
be very cool, I have to say. We'll see how it goes, but that's the end dream goal.
yeah. So would you ever go back to products? So you've talked a lot about like posters, kind of like, graphic design stuff um, for CD covers, but would you go back to clothing or toy design?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, at least the program I'm in right now, at least the graphic design program, you kind of learn everything. So
Okay.
it's kind of like, you go from, I think the first project I had last year was we had to design symbols. And so it was all communication based, work that we had to do. And then we had to learn how, patterns are made and like the ornaments, the small parts of the patterns and how they work together. And then we had to work on composition. So we're kind of just breaking through everything
Bouncing
humanly
around.
possible. And so
Yeah.
I think by having the experience in all those different settings, I feel like it kind of fits well into being able to, apply that to everything else. So, I mean, I'd love to be like, jack of all trades where it's everything I want to do. I'm actually like, it's like, as I said before, I mean, like, keep repeating it so I can manifest this to be true. But, I do the music video, I do the album cover, do the
Yes.
poster, I mean, you do like a designed figure with it. I don't know. I mean, just anything you can think of. It'd be amazing to be good at all of that.
Well, you have time and
Yeah.
you are good at all of that because I've seen you producing all along the way
Thank
and
you.
you've got the background in order to deliver something. But also like what I'm wondering is so you did a lot of color work, and your color is really strong. Would you say that that's your signature? Like, what aspect of your work is your signature?
I'd say probably I think there's a personality to a bunch of the stuff I do. I try to at least infuse some sort of personality. And I like to make there's something a little wrong with everything. It's not like you look at it and it's like, oh, this is, straightforward, like a cute thing or whatever. I like there to be kind of like the juxtaposition of like,
The
hey,
edge.
there's something a little messed up to this. And
Okay.
so I feel like there's some of that, but also, at least, having 2 years of graphic design classes, you kind of realize that like, I thought I knew more than I did, and then all of a sudden you're like, okay, I don't know that much at all. And so
Hmm.
I'd say at least before I probably started the courses I'm doing right now, it was probably color and drawing style.
Mhm.
But I feel like now I'm kind of trying to be able to, you know, see if I can make things where, I have my own individual style, but also be able to make things where it's like, oh, I didn't realize you could make that. Like it's a completely different style. Just so you
Mhm.
have that in your wheel, your or whatever toolkit to see if that's, a possibility. I want to be able to just kind of be like, okay, even if I don't want to do it, I have the ability to do that.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, and that opens you up to more jobs and experience.
Yeah,
It
definitely. Yeah.
sounds like you're really looking for that.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I think
That's
just the
cool.
experience would be cool.
Yeah, so I'm going to be releasing a full color workbook
Yeah.
based on the class that you took. And I'm just curious to know, like, how do you think that that would affect the class, you know?
I think it would be I love workbooks. I mean, I remember at least that age that I was taking your class, like probably I'd say I'll go middle. I'll go like 9. I'll go 9. That's the middle range that I was there. I don't know. That's all I was buying workbooks all the time, like
Mm,
how to draw this, how to draw. That's how I developed majority of my style was, having like pages and upon pages of just copying something else until I can kind of like slowly, draw something that's a little more original. And so I feel like just and it also takes the like, it makes it fun. It takes the pressure off of like this has to be like the best thing I've ever made. It's kind of like, okay, I can, it's a fun thing. The workbooks are fun. They're
right.
fun to look through a book and be like, okay, I can, I have activities I can do. And then if you start, cultivating that passion from like, an element of like, oh, this is fun, then you can actually kind of navigate to more, pushing yourself to have, more discipline to making your stuff more professional.
Like, if you were to describe the formula of the class, how would you describe it?
I'd say a lot of it's really nice that it's self-driven. At least in from what I remember the beginning being very much like you get kind of like you have to get the basics, and so that's very important to get out of the way. Like, okay,
Yeah.
here's stuff that you need to know, and here's stuff that like you should do and shouldn't do, and then from there on, I feel like not having it so strict is kind of perfect because I've been in art classes where like not to name names, but one of them was pretty much like just copy this drawing and here's a step by
Mm,
step thing to do. And whether it was like, a way to kill an hour when I was like 9, it's like, okay, sure, why not? But I didn't learn anything from it. I wasn't actually like I remember doing a comic in your class where um I think it was I don't remember. It was something where someone was climbing a rock climbing wall or something. And I think the last panel was like they were all square panels, and the last one I broke out into like a super tall panel where he was looking
mm.
up. And I just remember you were like, "Oh, that's pretty good." And I was like, "Oh, this is like it's nice to know that you can kind of break the mold a little bit instead of just
I
doing the
think I
same
remember
thing."
that it was like a mountain, like
Yeah,
a tall mountain.
yeah. I remember that, and I remember being like, oh, that's, to get some, positive, reinforcements like, oh, I can actually, and whether I think that's kind of part of the battle as well, is whether the stuff you're doing is good or not, the
Mm,
potential's there. And I
yes.
think by having the positive, like, oh, this is starting to look good instead of,
Yeah.
shooting it down, I feel like it kind of helps feed your whatever, I'm not going to call it delusion, but you're like, oh, I'm great until you actually become really good.
Yeah.
You need to have a little shield of like, oh, I'm actually doing pretty good, even when you're not. So you can kind of keep the passion going.
I just remember you being always positive, like always smiling, and I think also giving your best. Like, I feel like when you showed up, you did the work, and if you got stuck, you asked for help. Like, you were just basically the model student the
I'll
entire
take it.
time. And I'd be like, oh, I'd see you on the class list and be like, oh, it's going to be a good class.
Yeah, it was fun. It was very fun. But I feel like all those classes I took when I was younger, those really helped me kind of become, realize that like this is what I want to do. And I feel like it also helped like, really drive myself to like since I'd say it was probably third grade when
Mm,
I was like, okay, something art related is what I want to do, which was,
wow.
lucky that I could figure it out at that age and then
Yeah,
just kind
that's
of
very young to know.
drive towards that without a plan B. To whatever, we'll see how
Yeah.
that goes.
So
But
the Disney Museum, was that you or that was your mom?
I guess I was 9, so it was probably my mom found it. I feel like I was there before as well. And then from there I just kept taking the classes. And then once I got to know the people, I was like, oh, this is actually because it was a beginner animation class. And then once you do like whatever, like a year of that, then you can, branch out into like just do whatever you want. And that's where I
Mhm.
did, I like when I applied to Soda, that was where I did the animation for the media program there. And so it was pretty much from there on, it was just kind of you had the free reigns to do whatever you want. And whether it was like, because at least animation in general, I feel like it gave me the basics, like the core to, apply that to other things. But I also didn't have the passion to like, be like a Pixar animator. But I wanted the knowledge of like, okay, here's some basics that I can apply to, anything else I'm doing.
I'm not sure if I knew that you went to Soda.
No, I didn't. I didn't.
Oh,
I didn't
okay.
go to Soda. I
Okay.
applied.
Got it. Got it.
I've been I live close, but they shut me down.
Okay. Because their acceptances are really hard. Like it's 20 out of 300 applicants.
Yeah, I remember it. I remember applying, and it was definitely. I feel like at least at that age, I knew in the general idea of what I wanted to do, but
Yeah.
I felt like it was, at least personally for me, it was good not to go because I hadn't, honed in on exactly what I wanted. Because then I would have been doing film, and I like film, and
Oh, okay.
I like animation and all that stuff, but that's not the path, the full path where I've ended up. I like the elements, but
Yeah.
I feel like it was good to wait till I was older, going into college where I could actually hone in on what I really wanted.
So you were at Washington?
I was at Lincoln,
Lincoln.
the other
Okay.
president.
Yeah. So I think that those two were known as like strong art programs
Yeah.
as
Yeah,
well,
there was
right?
there was definitely a lot of I had a digital media class that I took my sophomore year, and I was in that for till my last year pretty much. And
Mm.
that was definitely helpful. It was also, it was pretty much similar. It was kind of like you learn the basics of, all the Adobe suite applications that you
Yes,
that you can
yes.
get your hands on. So, which was very helpful. But I also think, at the same time, it I needed something that was kind of, once I got it, I need something that was way more focused because this was kind of, there were kids in there that didn't care at all. They're like, I just need to, pass school. And so I feel like, once I got past the basics, I was like, okay, I need some deeper insight of how to use all this stuff.
I think that's your strength is you found what you needed, right?
Yeah.
Like whenever school wasn't delivering or things were not what you needed, you found it. What I'm curious about too is where do you see the iPad and Procreate? Like, do you think that that's going to be a media that people should really use for comics or use for graphic design?
I mean, I I'm gonna say the saying that I'm gonna, give myself some advice. I think they should. I don't personally,
Okay.
but I think, I mean, I've seen last year I have some friends in my class that are, they're using Procreate 24/7 and they're making some amazing stuff.
Okay.
And so I was like, I kind of need this. Like at least for drawing, because at
Mm.
least I'm almost in like the dark ages still. I'm like hand drawing stuff, I'm scanning it in, and then I'm editing in like Photoshop to like clear up stuff. But it really takes
Oh,
out the middleman of like, okay, you can just draw it directly on the screen, which I feel like, and also I feel like you can make your stuff at least drawing digitally. There's like a level of professionalism where you're like, oh, this is like shaded like realistically. This is like colored realistically, where it's,
mm.
I mean, there's only so much you can do with like Copic markers. You can't press like Command Z when you're drawing on like a piece of paper. So I feel like it's definitely very important.
I feel like this really strong sense that a hybrid is what's important,
Yeah,
right? So like you got to be able to draw on the paper,
definitely. You have to start
but
with the basics, that's for sure.
yeah, but Procreate, like it feels like you can edit on there and you can blend on there in ways that actually I've fooled famous artists. Like
Yeah,
people I admire had seen my work and they're like, "Oh, I really like your hand in that," which to me meant that they thought I was actually drawing everything
yeah.
on paper. And I said, actually, this is a
It's
digital medium that I can make look like paint.
yeah,
And I think for me, like it was just saving me time. So like I can do like a whole illustrated comic
yeah,
in an hour. Like it's just crazy how it
yeah. It's
just
amazing.
saved me so much time. And then I just like use a blending tool,
Yeah,
and like get like a lot more dimension. But I didn't start that way. I was actually like very against it
yeah.
because my teacher was a Disney animator and like everything was by hand and there was like this elevation of like where's the original? Like,
Yep.
you're gonna
Yep.
sell a digital piece of art. And actually, I'm gonna have my art in a show. I'm gonna sell some
That's
digital
great.
art. And what I love about it is I can resize it, I can put it on a banner, I can put it on canvas.
Yeah.
So I just feel like technology is another tool that's helpful.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So I feel like, yeah, like you're on the right path, and like what you're saying is you have both, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. I
and
feel like
the
both's very
way
important.
the way you utilize that really depends on the project, right?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. You kind of have to assess whether it's going to be helpful or not. Because I feel like a lot of stuff, like, I mean, I have some people that I know that are doing like, I mean, I use Photoshop all the time, but they're doing similar quality stuff, like even photo editing in Procreate, which is insane. So it's like,
Yeah,
okay, there's, whether it's, better than Photoshop or not, you can still do similar things. And I feel like just by having that
yeah,
capability, you can really make your stuff look so much better.
that's so cool. So is there a place where people can find you, like a certain
You
website?
know, I'm currently the past 2 months I've been back, I've been working on my website. So it's not doesn't exist yet, but
Okay.
that'll exist. But my Instagram's probably where I'll put like the link to that. So my Instagram
Okay.
is at Clint_Kessler. It's pretty
Okay.
direct. No code
Great.
names.
And I know you said like you're available for freelance work. Do you want to talk a little bit about the work you're available for?
Yeah, I'm actually I mean, it really depends what project. If you come to me with a very cool project, I will gladly do some work for it. I mean, I did some After Effects stuff for a friend's film a couple months ago, and so it's all just kind of keeping that going is fun because it's also it's nice to put in your portfolio as well, whether it's
Yes.
high profile or not. It's a good thing to add.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Well, I'm so proud of you.
thank you.
I'm gonna be cheering you on forever.
Thank you very much.
And like please just check in and like send your
Yeah,
art along the way.
definitely. Yeah,
And I will connect you to the parent who does the CD covers.
fantastic. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
This was great. Yeah, I've never been interviewed on Zoom before. This is
Yeah,
very
it's
interesting.
fun.
That was awesome. Yeah.
All right, take care.
Thank you so much. Great
You're
seeing you.
welcome.
Thank you.
Bye.